Every MVC project will start with a models folder inside. You can use this folder when you create new models for your application, although in reality, models can live anywhere, even in a different project you reference from the same MVC project. But we'll use this models folder for now, and since this site is going to be a restaurant review site, let's create a new class, and I'm going to call the class Restaurant Review. We'll keep things simple for right now and give every review just 2 properties. I'll insert these properties using Visual Studio Code snippets, so type prop and hit tab twice. We will call the first one name, that'll represent the restaurant's name, and we'll add another property of type int. This will be the rating for this particular restaurant. And this is all we need for a model at this time. So let's say that when the user visits the home page of our application, the opening screen, that is the view that's rendered from the index action of the home controller, we want to display the latest restaurant review that we have in the database. We're not working with a database yet, but you can imagine that we are, and what we'll do right now is just conjure something up. So I will say that our model is a new restaurant review, and right now this namespace isn't in scope, but I can use Control Period to bring down this drop down and have Visual Studio automatically add that namespace for me. And then we can initialize the properties inline. So I will say the name equals Tersigals. Tersigals is a fantastic restaurant outside of Baltimore, Maryland in a little town called Ellicott City. Highly recommended if you can get there. I give this restaurant a rating of 9 out of 10. And now when we tell the MVC framework what to do next, which is to render a view, we can also pass along a model that the view will receive. And the MVC framework will pass that along for us. The next step then would be to open the index view in that home folder and display information that is coming from this model. There's a couple different ways we can do this. Every Razor view by default will have a model property that we can use to access the model. So we could say, for instance, that the restaurant name is going to be at model.name. Model, just like ViewBag, model is dynamic by default, which means we can walk up and try to access any property that we think is going to be there. So for the next step, I could say that rating is going to be model.rating. So again, that model property will be set to whatever model object I passed in from my controller. And if I build this application, which will save all my files, we should be able to come out and refresh the home page. And there we see that the restaurant is Tersigals, the rating is 9. Very good. But there's a different way that we can approach this also. At the top of our view, we can provide a directive that explicitly tells Razor what the type of our model is going to be. So I can say that our model is going to be a restaurant review. And you can think of this, if you're familiar with C#, this type information is going to be used as a generic type parameter for the model property. Meaning that if we look at model now, it's no longer dynamic. The C# compiler and Visual Studio and everybody knows that that model property is of type restaurant review, and that we can get to both the name and the rating from here. And this is what we call the strongly typed model approach. This view now expects the model object that is passed to it to be of a specific type. We're going to have compiler checks and IntelliSense available when we author the view. We can save this and refresh, and the user's not going to see a difference. We're only going to see a difference when we're inside of Visual Studio. But how can we ensure that the controller is returning the correct model here? Well, that's where unit tests can help.